Diana Reeves stood in her garage at 7 in the morning, cordless drill in hand, staring at a metal gate that had locked her out of the community pool area for 6 months, and the thought running through her mind wasn't should I do this, but rather, which hinge should I start with? Sometimes the most rational response to an irrational system is to find the creative loophole nobody thought to close. Quick note before we begin. This is a fictional, dramatized story for education and entertainment. Any resemblance to real people is coincidental. This story is inspired by common HOA situations people talk about online. All names and details here are fictional. Diana had moved into Riverside Commons, a townhome community in Austin, Texas, 8 months earlier, attracted by the amenities package that included a pool, fitness center, and tennis courts, all of which required key fob access through gated entrances. During the closing process, the HOA's property manager Brenda Hutchins had assured Diana's real estate agent that all access keys would be mailed within 2 weeks of move-in, standard procedure, nothing to worry about. Week 3 arrived with no keys. Week 4 brought a reminder email from Diana that went unanswered for 5 days before Brenda responded with "I'll look into it." Week 6 prompted a phone call where Brenda insisted the keys had been sent, must have been lost in the mail, and Diana would need to pay a $50 replacement fee. Diana explained, with the careful patience of someone who'd worked in customer service for a decade, that she couldn't replace something she'd never received, and Brenda's response was a masterclass in bureaucratic stonewalling. Our records show keys were issued to your unit on your move-in date. If you didn't receive them, that's a postal issue, not an HOA issue. Replacement fee applies. Texas law is actually pretty specific about common area access in planned communities. When you purchase a property in an HOA with advertised amenities, you're entitled to access those amenities, and the HOA has a legal obligation to provide you with the means to access them. The Texas Property Code Section 209.005 establishes that restrictive covenants must be reasonable and cannot be used to deny property owners their lawful rights to use common areas, and charging someone for keys they legitimately never received could potentially violate both the CC&Rs and state consumer protection laws, especially if there's no proof of delivery. Diana researched this during Week 7, printed out the relevant statutes, and emailed them to Brenda with a polite request to reconsider the fee. Brenda's response: HOA policy is clear. Pay the replacement fee, or submit a formal complaint to the board. The formal complaint process, Diana discovered, required a written submission, a 30-day waiting period for board review, attendance at the next quarterly meeting, which wasn't scheduled for another 2 months, and even then, the board could vote to uphold the fee. Diana looked at this timeline, potentially 4 months to resolve a problem that should have taken a single email, and felt something shift in her approach to the situation. Her husband Tom watched her pull up the community's CC&Rs on her laptop one evening in month 3, and knew she'd moved past frustrated into what he called her engineer mode, the mindset Diana adopted when she encountered a problem that existing solutions hadn't solved. Diana had spent 10 years in mechanical engineering before switching to technical writing, and her brain naturally looked for system weaknesses, overlooked variables, solutions that lived in the space between what was explicitly forbidden and what was actually possible. The CC&Rs prohibited residents from modifying, damaging, or circumventing HOA security measures. They required key fob access for all amenity areas. They specified fines for unauthorized access attempts. But nowhere, and Diana read the document 3 times to be certain, did they address what happened when the HOA failed to provide access in the first place, creating a situation where residents had paid for amenities they couldn't legally use. Tom saw her scrolling through the architectural guidelines and asked what she was looking for, and Diana's answer made him nervous. Exit strategies. By month 4, Diana had stopped emailing Brenda and started documenting everything instead. Screenshots of every unanswered email, photos of the locked gates with timestamps, calculations of the prorated amenity fees she'd paid in HOA dues for facilities she couldn't access, and most importantly, a detailed study of how the pool gate was actually constructed. The gate itself was a standard 6-foot ornamental metal design, attached to brick pillars with 3 hinges on one side and a key fob-activated magnetic lock on the other. The hinges were visible from outside the fence, standard residential-grade hardware, nothing particularly sophisticated. Diana mentioned this to her neighbor Miguel, who worked as a locksmith and had dealt with similar situations professionally, and his response was careful. Technically, removing hinges isn't the same as picking a lock or damaging property. The gate stays intact. You're just temporarily relocating the attachment point. Miguel didn't say you should do this, but he also didn't say you shouldn't, and Diana understood the distinction. Month 5 brought a new element to the situation when 3 other residents approached Diana at the mailboxes, having heard about her access key problem through the neighborhood grapevine, and all 3 shared nearly identical stories. Keys never arrived. Brenda insisted they'd been sent. $50 replacement fee required. One of them, a retired teacher named Patricia, had actually paid the fee just to avoid the hassle, and when her replacement key arrived, the envelope showed a first-class mail date from only 3 days earlier, not the 6 weeks Brenda had claimed the original keys were sent. Diana asked if Patricia still had that envelope, and when Patricia said yes, Diana asked her to hold on to it because it might matter later. The envelope was physical proof that the HOA's, our records show keys were sent, claim was, at minimum, questionable. Let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. If you're finding value in this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you've ever experienced a similar HOA or neighborhood situation, feel free to share your story in the comments. Week 2 of month 6 brought unseasonably warm weather, the kind that makes a pool look like the only reasonable place to exist, and Diana stood in her backyard watching her neighbor's kids swimming while she couldn't access the facility she'd been paying for. That evening, she told Tom her plan, and he responded exactly as she'd expected. "Are you sure about this?" Diana's answer was honest. "No, but I'm sure that Brenda isn't going to fix this. The board process takes 4 more months, and I'm paying $43 a month in HOA dues for amenities I can't use. So I'm either doing this, or I'm hiring an attorney, and the attorney costs more than just paying the stupid fee in the first place," and started removing the bottom hinge pin. The work took 8 minutes total, 3 hinges, 2 screws per hinge securing the pin, nothing complicated. She swung the gate open from the hinge side, walked through into the pool area, set up her lounge chair, and spent exactly 90 minutes reading a book in the morning sun before carefully reattaching all 3 hinges and walking home. She did this every Saturday and Wednesday morning for 3 weeks, and during week 3, she ran into Brenda at the community mailbox. Brenda asked, with the tone of someone making small talk, whether Diana had resolved her key situation yet, and Diana answered truthfully, "I found a way to access the amenities I'm paying for, yes." Brenda seemed satisfied with this answer and didn't ask for details. Week 4 of Diana's pool access routine brought an unexpected complication. Patricia, the neighbor who'd paid the replacement fee, saw Diana at the pool one morning and asked how she'd gotten in. Diana explained her method. Nothing damaged, nothing broken, just a temporary hinge relocation, and Patricia's response was immediate. "Can you show me how to do that?" Diana hesitated because teaching someone else felt like crossing a line from personal civil disobedience into organizing resistance, but Patricia's logic was compelling. "I already paid for a key that should have been free. I'm not paying another $50 when mine inevitably stops working because Brenda bought the cheapest fobs available." By the end of that week, 4 different residents had discreetly learned Diana's hinge technique, and by the start of week 6, someone had reported to Brenda that residents were accessing the pool through unauthorized means. Brenda sent a community-wide email warning that anyone caught tampering with security gates would face immediate fines and possible legal action, and Diana read this email while sitting at her pool chair, having accessed the facility using a method that technically didn't involve tampering with the gate at all. The hinges were designed to be removable. That's how hinges work, and she was simply using them according to their mechanical function. This distinction mattered more than it seemed to on the surface, because what Diana had actually discovered was the difference between violating security and exploiting poor security design, and that difference existed in a legal gray area that Brenda apparently hadn't expected anyone to find. The situation reached its turning point when the HOA hired a security company to install cameras at all amenity gates, and the first footage they reviewed showed 7 different residents, over a 5-day period, carefully removing and replacing hinge pins to access facilities they were legally entitled to use but had been denied access to through administrative failure. The board called an emergency meeting, and Diana received a certified letter requiring her attendance to address security violations. She brought Tom, the relevant sections of a Texas property code she'd researched months earlier, Patricia's envelope showing the suspicious mailing date, and a spreadsheet calculating 6 months of prorated amenity fees for 4 residents who'd been denied access, totaling just over $900. The board president, a retired engineer named Robertson, listened to Brenda's presentation about unauthorized access and security concerns, then asked Diana a single question. "Did you damage any HOA property?" Diana's answer was factual. "No, sir. Every hinge is in its original condition. Every gate functions exactly as designed. I didn't cut locks, break mechanisms, or circumvent security in any way that would prevent the gate from operating normally for someone with a proper key." Robert looked at Brenda and asked why Diana didn't have a proper key 6 months after move-in, and Brenda's explanation about mail issues and replacement fees sounded substantially less compelling when delivered in front of 7 residents, and a board that was now looking at potential liability. Robert then asked their property attorney, Lisa Chen, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, whether the HOA had any legal standing to fine residents for access